be with us this morning. Before I go any further, I raised a question a couple of weeks ago about is God through with the Jews, known as the people of restless feet, scattered from one end of this earth to the other. They have trembling hearts, fear day and night, and no assurance of life. Nevertheless, they remain the people distinct from all the nations, and the Jews is a miracle among mankind. God may have changed his message, but his purpose, no matter how sinful or disobedient a man is, his purpose doesn't change. It goes on. In Genesis 3:15, I will put intimacy between thee and the woman, and between thy seed and her seed. He shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel. Here is the beginning of the race. We introduce God's purpose in providing a redeemer. When Cain was born, Eve thought that this was the fulfillment of the promise. She said, I have gotten a man from the Lord. Her statement could have meant, I have gotten one, the Lord, or the man of Jehovah. But she was mistaken. Instead of one brother killed the other. Cain killed Abel. God replaced the seed of Abel with that of Seth. And sin corrupt increased, and the family judgment came, and the flood began, and everything, and there was no one spared except Noah and his family. Now, Noah, when he left the ark, he had 4 sons, I believe. One of them was Ham. Ham, Nimrod is a descendant of Ham. And also, they worshiped heavenly bodies, what they did, Babylon. God reached down in sovereign grace, chose Abraham in the midst of this adulterous rape. Remember that Balaam, they built a temple that reached to the heavens to defy God. And that tower, that's where you have the separation of tongues, all the different languages. We know how come all the languages that there are. That's the reason. God, approximately 400 years later, God chose Abraham. And the whole family of Israel was to leave. The whole family was to leave, and there they went to Abraham. About 400 years after Abraham, the whole family of Israel was in Egypt under the task, the wheel, grinding at the mill, making bricks, and building cities. They were under the lash of the taskmaker's wheel. The king of Egypt introduced the midwives, told the midwives to kill all the male babies. And the queen's maiden found the baby and took it to her, and she seen the tears on his cheek, and he changed the world. Egypt was led out of, Israel was led out of Egypt about 400 years after that. And Moses, remember Moses' mother was built an ark and put the child in, Moses, in it, and her maiden, the Pharaoh's maiden, found that, and the daughter of Pharaoh found the baby. And the baby Moses grew and was chosen to suffer and he chose to suffer the afflictions of God rather than that of man for a season. They were in bondage there. Soon after that, there was about 600,000. They left Pharaoh, and there they went left Egypt, and there they appeared to about like I said, about 600,000 slaves were released, was the prey of Pharaoh. And Pharaoh sent his army after them, but God had another choice. God intervened and opened the sea up, and they went on dry land. Now, you can read about Esther. You can read Esther if you want to, and you won't find God's name mentioned in there. But you know God is behind everything that he did, that she did. He was behind it. And the gallows that Haman through trickery, was going to have all the Israelites killed. And the gallows that he built for the Israelites, he himself, Mordecai, Haman built a gallows for him. Instead, Haman was on it. He died there. So you can read about Esther if you've not read Esther. Also, remember the time of Hezekiah, king of Israel, of Judea? The king of Syria sent his army and had marched down to there, and there Hezekiah went out and prayed to God, asked him for intervention, and he intervened, and he sent an angel down, and he smote them, the Assyrians, and they did not attack. Jerusalem. Now, after that, there was the promise fulfilled. Now we have the promise of the Redeemer. The time of the appearance of the Redeemer, Israel's Messiah, grew near. God moved upon the heathen king, and he issued, that was Herod, and he had Caesar Augustus had a tax, and he taxed all the people that was in. And that's the reason Mary and Joseph had to go down to Bethlehem in Judea for that reason. So God began to move. He may change his method, but his purpose is always the same. And so remember, Mary and Joseph was the guardianship of Jesus. Now, God's purpose continued, interrupted through all this. Now, Jesus was virgin-born, son of a Jewish mother. Remember that, a Jewish mother. Joseph was a Jew. Jesus was a Jew. If we go to heaven, it will be because of him, a Jew. Now, on the day of Pentecost, there was 3,000 saved, and they were Jews. So, remember that. So, they gathered there to listen to, on the day of Pentecost. There's 3,000 saved, and they were 3,000 there was saved, and Peter and preached about the 3,000 that were saved. They were Jews. All of them were Jews. So we can be thankful that God sent his son as a Jew, and if it hadn't been for the Jews, and we would still be a heathens. So remember, the Jews are God's chosen people. And that's the reason. And there is no difference between the Jew and the Greek. The same Lord over all is rich unto all that call upon him. Remember that, for whosoever call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. Remember, it was the Greek and the Jews. Greeks is us. We are the Gentiles. So the same Lord over all of us is the same.